Hello and welcome to Lesson 6.5. Today we're going to look at fractions, decimals, and percents. If you recall, a percent is nothing more than a ratio that's comparing a number to 100. So what we might see is something that looks like this, where we have this percentage sign. So this says 5%, and if I wanted to rewrite this, I could rewrite that as 5 divided by 100. This is the ratio of 5 100ths. And then what I could do is I could actually simplify that down, because 5 goes into 5 one time and 5 goes into 120 times. I end up with 1 divided by 20. So my ratio would be 1 to 20. So to write a percentage as a decimal, the first thing you need to do is you need to write it as a fraction, okay, over 100. And then we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator to find the decimal. So if I wanted to do that with this example here, I'm going to take my numerator and then I'm going to divide that by my denominator. Now if you recall, 20 will not go into 1, so I'm going to have to drop in a decimal point and write in a 0. 20 cannot go into 10, so I'm going to put a 0 up here, and I'm going to put another 0. And then 20 goes into 100 5 times. So this right here is my decimal equivalent of 5%. For example 1, it says to write each percentage as a fraction in simplest form. So again, the first thing we're going to do is we are just going to take the percent and drop the percentage sign off. So I'm going to drop that. And I have 58, and I'm going to write this number over 100. And then, because I noticed right away that 58 and 100 are both even numbers, and they're both divisible by 2, I'm going to reduce this fraction, and I end up with 29/50ths. I can't reduce this any further, so I'm just going to leave it as 29/50ths. For 72%, I can do the same thing. We're just going to kind of drop the percentage sign off, and that leaves me with 72. And we write that over 100 because this is a ratio over 100. And then I'm going to simplify again because I see that both 72 and 100 are even. Now in this case, 72 and 100 are both divisible by 4. So 72 divided by 4 is going to be 18. And 100 divided by 4 is going to be 25. So I can reduce that fraction down to 18/25ths. Now for example 2, it says to write each percentage as a decimal. Well, we did this, we wrote these as fractions in the previous example. So this turns out to be 58 over 100. And so if I want to go ahead and write it as a decimal, I can go ahead and do my long division. Remember, my numerator goes underneath and my denominator goes outside. So 100 cannot go into 58, so I'm going to drop in a decimal. And if I put a 0 here, 100 will go into 580 5 times. So this is going to give me 500. And when I subtract this, I get 80. I'm going to have to go and bring another 0 and drop that down. And 100 goes into 800 8 times. So 58% is equal to 0.58. Let's look at the next example. 7.2%. So I'm going to go 7.2, and we're going to divide this by 100. So again, I have 7.2, and we're going to put 100 out here. When I look at this, 100 will not go into 7. So I'm going to bring the decimal place that we already have up here. And when I look at my 2, 100 will not go into 7.2, so this is going to become a 0. And if I put in a 0 down here, now I have 100 goes into 720. Well, that's going to be 7 times, which gives me 700. I subtract the 2, and I end up with a remainder of 20. So I'm going to write another 0 up here, bring that down, and 100 goes into 200 2 times. So I end up with 0.072. So 7.2% equals 0.072 as a decimal. So if you take a quick second, notice the relationship between our percentages and our decimals. If we have a percentage and we want to write it as a decimal, if you take a quick note here, our decimal place is the only thing that's moving. The numerical values are there, so 58% has a 5 and an 8. My decimal has a 5 and an 8. The only thing that's changed is my decimal. In 58%, my decimal is really right here. When I remove that percentage sign and do my division, my decimal actually moves 2 places to the left, just like it did right here in 7.2%. So my decimal place was right here, and when I went from 7.2% to a decimal, my decimal moved 2 places to the left, which gives us 0.072. So if you want to write a decimal as a percentage, you're going to rewrite the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 100, then write the fraction as a percent. So we are going to move our decimal to the right 2 places. Okay, so this is kind of the opposite of what we were just doing. So now what we have is if we want to take our decimal here, write it as a percentage, I'm going to take my decimal place, move it 2 places to the right now because I need to add that percentage, and this is going to give me 33.3%. So for example 3, we're going to write each number as a percentage. So I'm starting out with 4/10, which means I'm going to move my decimal place 1, 2, and this is going to give me 40%. 46 divided by 200 will actually simplify down to 23 over 100. So now that I have this over 100, I know that this is really just going to give me 0.23. And if you don't know that, you can go ahead and divide that out, and you can do your long division, don't forget, and work your math out this way. So I end up with 0.23, and if I want to write this as a percentage, I'm going to move my decimal place 2 places to the right, and I get 23%. Now likewise, for the third bullet point where it says 1.75, I'm again going to move my decimal place 2 places to the right, and I end up with 175%. Now sometimes it's value added to have to compare and order fractions or decimals or percentages. So ultimately what's probably going to be best is if you rewrite everything in terms of a decimal and then compare the decimal values alone. So in example 4, we're going to do this. It says 4 students surveyed their English classes asking, do you have a pet in your home? They reported the results as 0.35, 2/5, 30%, and 53%. We need to order the results from least to greatest. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert all of these numbers into a decimal. So 0.35 is done for us. 2/5, if I take and divide 2 by 5, this is going to give me the decimal of 0.40. 30%, in this case here, I'm going to take that decimal of 30 and I'm going to move it to the left. So this is going to give me 0.30. And 53%, I'm going to do the same thing. That decimal is right here. Move it 2 to the left. And this gives me 0.53. Okay, so now I have 0.35. If we list these out, we have 0.40, 0.30, and 0.53. So if I write these from least to greatest, I have my 0.30, then my 0.35, then we have 0.40 and 0.53. Now I'm just going to put their equivalents. So 0.30 was really 30%. We were given 0.35. 0.40 was really 40%. Oh, that was really 2/5. And the 0.53 was really 53%. So here are those same numbers written in the correct order from least to greatest. Please pause the video and try doing this on your own. Okay, at this point in time, I'm going to take my 1/4 and I'm going to rewrite this as a decimal, and this is going to be 0.25. We're given 0.26. Then we also have 31%. So 31% is really equal to 0.31. And 2/7, if I divide that out, 2/7 is roughly 0.285. And I'm going to round that. So if I include the 0.26 with these other three numbers, I can see that we have 0.25, 0.26, 0.285, and 0.31. So to order these from least to greatest in the original form that they were given, this is going to be 1/4, 0.26, 2/7, and 31%. Again, we're going to do the same thing for part B. So part B, I have 88% is really equal to 0.88. 91% is really 0.91. 5/6, if you divide this out, will give you 0.833, and the 3's are going to just be repeated. And then we have our 0.71. So if I write these in order from least to greatest, we have 0.71. Then we have 0.83 repeated, then 0.88, and 0.91. So all of this then, if I write them from their original format, we have 0.71, 5/6, 88%, and 91%.